today we're going to experiment a little bit and use salt in our painting. Also, I'm using a jelly roll, which is a white gel pen actually, but you can also use white paint, white gouache that I also have in my palette. I'm using a flat brush and a round brush, but you can also just use the round brush. The flat brush makes it easier to fill the whole space. First of all, great that you're taking the time to paint, to have some me time and to create something. And remember, like I always said, don't focus on the end result, but just enjoy the process. And especially this painting, you don't have to think much of how it would look like. Just be guided and pull away from the busyness around you. So first I'm going to use some masking tape to tape off my piece of paper. If you have a block of paper that is glued on all sides, you don't have to do this. But I also like this clean edge on this card, and since I'm going to wet the whole painting, it's nice to have everything flattened from the beginning. So we're going to paint a winter theme card with snowflakes. Not sure where you live and whether you would have snow this winter or during the holidays. But if you're a snow person, then I really hope that you can enjoy snow this year. First of all, I'm going to use my flat brush, but like I said before, you can also use your round brush and then use the side of it to fully paint your piece of paper. And I'm just going to use some blue paints here. Since I have different blues on my palette, I'm going to use different blues. But you can also just use one blue. And I'm going to wet the full piece of paper. And then when this is still wet, I'm going to add some wet on wet effects. And here it's important to don't use a too watery brush. And I'm just dipping spots. I'm just dipping some spots here randomly. I'm not thinking about how it should be or that it should become something. This is just a background that I'm creating for the snowflakes. And I'm mixing some blues together. I'm also using some darker colors. And as you can see, I'm making it darker here in the middle because I'm going to use this part as I'm going to use this part for some text that will be in white. So that's why I'm making a darker background. But if you're going to use a black pen to write something on your card, then try to keep it as light as possible. So for example, you can keep a light background like here in the above, on the spaces or on the space where you would like to put your end text. So what you can see is that it already became dry here as the paint isn't really flowing into the layer before. So I'm going to gently go over it again to wet it a bit. And again, this is just the background, so don't worry if it doesn't look like something. So, and when this is still wet, I'm going to pick up my salt. I have large sea salt here, but you can use any salt you like. And what the salt will do is that it will absorb the water. So with large sea salt, you get more absorption, and with smaller sea salt, or smaller salt, you get less absorption, and that will create another effect. I'm just sprinkling it here, my painting. Going to use some smaller sea salt as well. And then I just let it be, and I'll wait for it to dry. And instead of using a blow dryer to speed up the dry time, I could use this wait time for a moment to reflect. Reflect on the past year, or think about my intentions for the coming year. especially when it comes to self-care, what are you going to do to take more time for yourself, to take better care of yourself? How much time are you going to spend on that? How important do you find self-care, me time, and relaxation? Do you also experience that relaxation can bring you better productivity? Have you thought about what you value the most? How you would like to spend your time? Is it a lot of work, family, side hustles, hobbies, sport, reading, learning something new? And what is realistic to ask from yourself? Think about one thing that you will change the coming year compared to the past year. What would you do differently in how you're spending your time? You can think about these questions while you're observing how your painting is changing because of the salt. On some places you can see that the salt is absorbing the paint and certain effects evolve. You have to wait until it's completely dry before you're removing the salt from your paper. So it depends on how wet your paper is, but it could take 5 to 10 minutes if you're not using a hairdryer. You can see that some places are already dry, but the wet places need more time to dry. So just let it be. Also, I wouldn't recommend to use a hairdryer when you're using salt, as you will blow away your salt as well, of course. And it won't have the actual effect then. When it's all dry, I gently remove the sea salt. Scrubbing off the sea salt, and you can sometimes feel that it's stuck to the paper, so you really have to rub it off. So it depends on what kind of salt you use, how the effect will look like. But what the salt essentially do is absorbing the paint. So you get these effects that you see here. So everything needs to be completely dry, as you see. And then I'm going to use my white jelly roll gel pen, but you can also use a small, or you could also use a small brush with white gouache to create the snowflakes. And I do this just randomly, create these snowflakes. And what I actually do is I create these lines like a star, and then add these small corners to it. nothing perfect. And remember, it doesn't have to look exactly the same as what I'm doing. You can create small ones and bigger ones and just play around, create different shapes, create different sizes of these snowflakes. And here in the middle, I'm going to write my text. It could be anything. Thank you, best wishes, what I'm going to write on it, or anything specifically that is meant for the one you want to give this card to. And you can just use your own handwriting or use capital letters. My jet roll is getting a little bit blue because it's picking up the paint. I'm just adding some more snowflakes to this. And when it's ready, I'm putting off the masking tape. It's always really satisfying to do this. So that's it. That's the card.